Hello, everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton here with Calvin Moseman, Margaret Carlton, a bunch of other awesome people who are producing great FileMaker content. So today it's 1 o'clock Pacific time here in California, the West Coast of the United States. Upcoming broadcast schedule. I'm going to put that right over Calvin's face. We can't see him anymore. Oh, he came back. I can't get rid of him. So what we have is today is going to be kind of a beginning steps of dealing with Excel. For those of you who are brand new to FileMaker, which is none of the people on Discord, you folks are all going to be horrifically bored. So if you start like playing Russian roulette or flipping your knives around, was that Aliens movie where the robot's sitting there and he's got his knife out and he's going between his fingers really fast and then he starts bleeding, right? So probably Ken over there will probably start whipping out the knife and then sticking it in going back and forth with a knife, right? So kind of wild. So tomorrow and Thursday and Friday are going to be very advanced days. So just suck it up for today. Today's for beginners. Monday for beginners as well. And then Tuesday is going to be kind of an ad hoc audible, right? We talked about this yesterday, but we changed up the schedule. We're going to be covering a FileMaker server conversation about known bugs, some relevant new data that you may or may not know about. We'll have Jacob Taylor there as well. We will cover questions. If your question is like how to install FileMaker, some of you asked me that on server, we will refer you to the complete bundle training course, which is available. And you're like, well, what is that? Well, if you really like our free videos, you'll really like our paid videos, which are even better, right? And so I'm going to press a button right now. You're on fmtrade.tv, get the live tab. You can come over here. You can see this other content, these courses right here. We don't sell them individually anymore. You come over to bundle and you buy the complete bundle right here. A lot of you have this. It's really, really high value. You get the FileMaker certification training, 10 hours of testing tips and focused conversation on how to get through that test. We had a conversation on that. We will have more conversations on that in the future. But the reality is if you want all this great content and you want to show support for the free live stream channel, you need to purchase this over here, the complete training bundle. When people called me and they asked me tech support questions, the first thing I do is determine if they are if they're, have paid us some money. If they have paid us money, they get higher priority response, right? If they are someone that we've never heard of before and they just want free welfare, free food, free cheese, then we'll get to that when we get through all the other things where we've taken care of the people who have sent us money. So yeah, we do appreciate that. That's the upcoming broadcast schedule. That's how you show your support for the channel so we can pay Calvin because Calvin wants to be paid. So this is Calvin, senior engineer of RCC. He's been around the block for a while. He is a serious bad world of FileMaker. He's kind of the architect or babysitter at this point behind our calendar, right? The calendar kit and the calendar, which is still a thing because Glarus has a free calendar, but it's kind of limited. Their add-on calendar, right? It's limited. So if you want a full-blown calendar that's essentially free, it's $50 or free, depending on how you do that. But you want to check out our calendar kit. So anyway, Calvin, are you there? I can see
I'm
you.
here, yes.
You're there. So what are we doing? Today's a basic day, right? So
yeah, today's a basic day, and it's kind of a conversation of how I want to use FM Starting Point. I want to use FileMaker, and maybe I've been somebody sent me a list of contacts that I want to add to my app to FM Starting Point, or maybe I've been managing all of my contacts in Excel. I don't know how many times I've met people that we try to figure out what they're using right now to track their leads, and everything's in Excel. So we're going to take an Excel spreadsheet, a CSV file that has some data in it. That's very similar to some data that we would get from somebody that wants to start using FM Starting Point. And we're going to put that in FM Starting Point. Now, we can just import it. That's a pretty easy single-step way to get it in. But to get everything to look right and work right, using both contacts and accounts, which is really one of the powerful things about FM Starting Point, is having those two areas. We're going to go through some processes to massage that data and get it working as well as we can with the data that we have in a new copy of FM Starting Point.
Cool. Now the technique we're showing would be applicable even if you were rolling your own new FileMaker file. But we're starting with this pre-canned free CRM. So
right.
For those of you wondering about this real quick, so let me just cover this base. I was making Calvin full screen, but it was a little bit premature. So if I go here, if I go to FM Starting Point, fmstartingpoint.com, this is the website right here. This is actually more of an alpha version right here. If you're trying to roll out anything in a very serious sort of way, just go with the standard download right here, and you'll put in a little bit of information, your name and email, and then we will shoot you an email with the download links on it. But this is how you get to that right now. So this is a completely free unlocked CRM, really quite good. It's some good technology. So, Calvin, now that we know how to get that, I'm going to make you full screen. If you want to share your screen.
Yes. This is my new copy of FM Starting Point.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and open this. And I'm not sure why I didn't open. Let me just drag and drop it right there. And it's so new, it's asking me what level I am. Now, this just depends on what layout you're going to see. I'm going to select Ninja level. And so if we look in here, we'll see we've got one record in contacts, one in accounts. We just got one record just to kind of show you how things are working here. Now, let me show you the data that we're going to start with. And that's in this CSV. So here's a CSV file. I've got column headers. So we've got a company, we've got a lead type, a phone number, email, our contact, and we'll notice this is first name, last name, all in one column. So that's kind of a problem. City, country, zip, state, street. Some empty columns. We've got this one column that says manager. Maybe that's title, but it doesn't look like there's any more data in there. So maybe we'll ignore that one. And then the website. So the first thing that I'd like to do with this is, I'm going to import everything into FileMaker first, and then start changing the data once I have it in. So I'm going to go open up scripts, and that would be scripts and then script workspace, or Control Command Shift S, and I'm going to create a new folder here. I'm just going to call this one imports. Now, there's a couple ways you can import. You can just go to File, Import Records, and select File. But the reason why I do it from a script is so that whatever I just imported will be saved. So I'm going to say import.
Okay, so let me intervene here real quick. So this is a super hot tip. I'm going to reemphasize this. This is why we have another person here. So there's Calvin's screen. I'll make it a little bigger. So here's the deal. You can do an import, okay? And what you're going to find out is you're going to do a lot of alignment to get the fields to line up, okay? I guarantee the first 1, 2, 3 times that you do the import, it won't be correct. You'll be like, run the import, it comes through, and you go, oh, that's screwed up. And you'll want to delete the records and do it again. So you can go back to File, under File, and go to Import and do it manually again, and it will remember your last settings. However, it's not unheard of to have FileMaker Pro crash when this kind of stuff is going on. If it crashes, it's going to forget your import order. Remember, if you go ahead and just go here and do it real quick. Go ahead and go import file.
Let's start this way.
Yeah.
And I'm going to select
this one, all available. And there we go. And so I'm going to let Calvin get into this real quick. Go ahead and hit add for the moment. Just add. Here's the thing. You have to align. This is the source data over here. You have to align your fields over here. And so you have to kind of cross-connect and cross-connect and cross-connect and connect and connect and connect. Getting those connections correct is a little bit time-consuming. There's some strategies to that. You're going to screw it up, period. No one does it correctly the first couple times. And so you do it. You're like, oh. So wrong, so you go back and you make an adjustment and you do it again. And so say you import, so we added 600 records, right? Hit OK. It's like, it's all wrong. It's screwed up. So what you're going to do is you go to records, right? And you're going to say delete the found set of records, right? Because you don't want the 600 records in there. You're going to delete them, right? I'm not a big fan of deleting records, but in this case, clearly you want to delete them. So we try it again. So you go File, okay? You go Import, right? And you keep doing this iterative process. The rub is if it crashes, you lose all your forward progress. If you want to save your forward progress, you do this same dialogue, but you do it from a script. It's the biggest tip I can give you to not want to pull your teeth out. I learned this horrifically in FileMaker 3. FileMaker 3, I was working in an office building in Sacramento as a consultant, and RCC had 3 people. And I was helping a customer import records. And the problem is, to verify it, we had to import. It took hours. So you walk away hours, you come back later, and it's wrong. You're like, I mean, you can't scream loud enough the F word, right? And so you delete the records, takes time, and then you have to do it all over again. And you keep doing it until you kind of get it right. So that's kind of what we're trying to do is if you crash FileMaker, you don't lose your forward progress. That's the goal. So Calvin, take it away from here. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah, not a problem. So we want to have that saved somewhere. And it helps us if we ever need to refer to it and import more data, and import a duplicate of that spreadsheet with new contacts in it or something like that. Then we have it saved in a script. So I'm going to select import, and we'll see some problems here. So first we've got the lead type went to first name, the company went to last.
Yeah, we need some beepy noises. I'm going to make noises.
Lots
Wrong.
of beeps. And
Wrong.
We'll notice another problem. I don't have any contact IDs. That's a problem. So let's go back up here and say delete found records once again. So we're starting back over. And now let's go and open our scripts. And we have our import. And you'll notice when we select, we won't specify the file. When we say import, we are getting the same dialog that we had before. And actually, maybe I do need to select my file. Let's select, I'll say add file. And I selected the one on the desktop. Now I have the option to say field is the first row the field names or is the first row data. And we just looked at it, and I remember that the first row was field names, so I'm going to say field name.
Okay, but this is only if you're really lucky. If you're really lucky, a lot of times you'll get the import from someone else, and the first row will not be field names. Just so you know. So yeah.
Right. And now we can specify the order to put it in. So we can see ABC company, and you can navigate forward and backward. You'll notice it started on the first row of the import, and that's because that's the first one with data. And I can go back one to see what those column header names are, and then I can go forward and see what those what different data we have, and just make sure that those line up right. And you can actually move which row is the data. So if sometimes you'll get a spreadsheet where there's a header information, and maybe the third row down is the data. Instead we can specify that maybe the third row down is the field names. So you could specify maybe the third row is the field names. But in this case, obviously it's data. So we'll take a look at that. And I'm going to change this back to field names for our first one. And we've got this awesome popover where we can select which field that we want to associate with this. So in FM Starting Point, we have an account name that is what you would consider a company.
Yeah, that's one of those little moments we have to educate people on. We use the word account name, but that is the organizational name. So there you go.
But here's another potential problem here. We have a phone, and I'm not seeing a cell phone. So maybe this is a cell phone, maybe it's not. This is another instance where we might find out later that we need to export and re-import. And let's go with email. We'll just search in here, email. And then we have the contact. I'm just going to search. Well, I don't see any contact field. And so let's go ahead and push through here to see what's in there. And it's a first and last name. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import this into the...
It's right there in the middle.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to try to do it into the full name, but
this
is really cool.
It won't show up because it's a calculation field. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was thinking that it would show you, but it wouldn't let you select it. So
Not
I'm going to put in the first.
anymore. Yeah. So this, for those of you wondering about this import dialog was redesigned in FileMaker 18, I believe. So it's about 4 years old. But for the previous, remember, I've been doing this for 32 years. So for the previous 29 years, we had this other dialog, and you would actually grab a field here. You click it and grab it, and you'd move it. You can't do that anymore. You have to click in here, then select off the pop-up. And if there's too many things in a pop-up, use the search to quickly narrow the list is the way that works. Different with 18 and 19 now.
This is light years ahead of what it used to be.
Yeah.
So now we'll find country. So I'm going to put these all in primary count. Now we've got a few different addresses in there. And we're going to look for zip code. That doesn't look like anything.
That's not it.
So it's called postal code.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So we'll want to make sure that we know what we're familiar with the fields. And it might be helpful before you import to actually just look at what the field names are in the app.
Well, you'd even cancel out of here and you go over and I would go to layout mode and I'd take a screenshot. That's what I would do. But that's just me.
Yeah,
so,
that's a great pointer there. Okay, let's find state, and we're doing primary. Street
would be address 1 sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's primary.
Okay,
street 1 right here.
Yeah. Okay, so do the next one. Okay, that's nothing, I guess.
That's empty.
Okay, now hold for a second. What's the difference? Explain to everyone. What's the difference between that and that?
Okay, so in the empty ones are fields that we are not importing to.
Okay, stop.
While
let me phrase that. They're fields that we're not importing to at this current moment in time. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Forget the red ones for now. So the green ones mean that they're somewhere already on this list. The hollow ones are eligible, but they're not currently here. Right? Very important. Red means that they are not importable at all because there's some sort of calculation or summary or something else. Global field probably. Right? So, like there's name full.
Name full that I was looking for.
Yeah, it's a calculation which takes on first and last. So this is a super common problem where you have first and last name in a single Excel column, and you're going to have to break it out. So I can think of a couple ways of doing that. We'll see how Carlton does it. So status, there's status, I guess.
And status. And I think we decided that there's no information in this column, so I'm just going to not import this one.
Okay.
How
do you not import? How do you not import? Oh, you change it right here. Click on that. Sorry. We don't do this terrible much. Don't import this field. There you go. Okay. Website. There we go.
And then I don't think this one has anything in it. Okay, so we got a few empty ones, and let's go ahead and try importing it. Okay, so
we know that there's at least one problem. Okay, so now we've saved it. Now go ahead and make sure you save the script. You save the script. So then in the event of a crash, all that hard work we just did has been preserved. Now what we're doing here, in reality, this import that we just did, that little list is super small. The import that you're going to be pulling your hair out will be like 500 or 200 or 300 deep. It's just why you don't want to lose your work, right? So we save it. Yeah. So now we can run it, right? So here we go. Run it.
Yeah. Sometimes we'll import it into, and so one thing I do, or I like to do with these, is I leave the dialogue on. Okay. If it's not something we're regularly doing. So here's the dialogue. I can look at this. Okay, I think everything's good. I'll say import. It went really fast. Now, well, look, we only have 599, wasn't it 600? But remember that one row was the column headers.
Yep.
So the column headers weren't imported this time. So all this data is looking like it's matched up pretty well.
Except for, you got first and last name in there.
And you know what? We don't have an ID.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and delete all these records again.
Okay. And then there's a comment from Mark. You can also change the import to don't import on all rows at once if you want to only. Yeah, we'll have to. Hey Mark, how do you do that? Right? How do you set them to all not import at one time? Mark says a tip for that. What button do you push for that, Mark? I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't. Oh, there we go. There's our AutoEnter options there.
So what we need to do is set up this checkbox. Usually when you perform an import, you want the AutoEnter features to run. Especially if you're starting out, you want the AutoEnter to set the serial numbers, UUIDs, creation, modification information. All that needs to be set up. If you're pulling from data from a backup, maybe you probably don't want that to be set. So, but if starting out fresh, you want that running. And
Okay, hold for a second. Yeah, auto perform the probably not in this case. I don't think you'd want that.
So these, so let's go ahead and see what happens. And this is an instance where it's helpful to know what these auto enters do. And just because I'm familiar with this app, I know. But I'm going to go ahead and I really love the shortcut where we can say manage database. Let's see what's going to happen with the cell phone one. So we'll go cell phone one and open that up. And it's doing a custom function
on itself. On itself. Okay.
Actually,
so
this could even be self. But if we want, and that custom function is going to remove text formatting and then change the format so that the number has the dashes or parentheses that we specify in the custom function. So I'm going to leave that one on.
Okay.
Now the account is a lookup, and I don't know what the state province is doing. Maybe it's making caps. Primary.
All right, Mark, I'll get that one in a second. Good video. That's not one I've tried. Mark just put a super cool tip in there. Good for that's why we have some smart people.
Out.
No, we'll check it out. It's a good one.
So the state in province is making it uppercase. So we'll leave all of
that one on. Okay, we'll leave that on. Okay.
And I'll say okay, import.
We'll save it. We save the script again, and then we run it.
Saved it, and now we're running. We'll say import. 599. That looks good. We've got our
primary keys there. Yeah.
Primary keys. Yep. And this is looking good. Except for the one problem that we have where our first name and last name are stuck in the same field. Do we have? I guess maybe we should ask if we have any questions up to.
Well, we should cover the how to turn them all off on one whack. Right, he shows a trick for doing that. If you want to watch that video real quick, Calvin.
Oh, we want to bring it up for everyone?
Yeah, just bring it up real quick if you want to show it, or I can show it. Yeah, here's the video right here. So this is what Mark just threw together. So if you want to set all of these to not import at once, you select them all, then you right-click and you set them that way. Okay? I have never done that, but once again, I mostly train and I don't normally do giant ugly imports. That's good, Mark. You get a good gold star. My Marine is on the job. All right, other questions we have. Wally's there, Rex is there, Timothy's there. On maybe Alpha Lima 92651. Hopefully he's there on Twitch. Not sure. Let's see who else is. You are welcome. Yes. Kyle's trying to tell us about some sort of parsing function. He's off in the weeds. Okay, Kyle, this is for beginners. You missed the opener of this thing. This is for beginners, right? Beginners, right? So Kyle's function probably uses SQL and some JSON, and so it's So
I'm gonna. If we're done talking about that, and we want to go to how we're going to parse this out. Maybe I'm cheating. But I watched this really awesome live stream that's daily at 1:00 Pacific. And
really?
I saw this. They were talking about.
Was that Claris live stream? Do they do this every day at 1:00?
No, I'm talking about us.
Oh, well, I just thought
we're every day at 1:00.
Well, I'm sure there's other people do this too, right? Other people do daily live streams that train for free.
I don't think other people are as amazing as we are. So
or stupid enough to pay for. That's why I tell people to buy the complete training so we can pay the bills, right? I'm being serious about that, right? All right. So what you watched ourselves? You watched yourself, and what did you learn from watching yourself?
Well, someone had a question about the position function, and we found in the example for position that they have a calculation that will take out the first or last name. So I'm not even going to try to figure this out myself. I'm just going to copy this from Claris's help that we talked about the other
Yeah.
day.
Okay. That was when we were
And
learning how to pass a certification test.
yep, so I'm going to select the last name and go to Tools. Actually, let's just double check this first. So usually you'll write your own calculation using the data viewer. And I'm going to put this in here. And we can just say the name first. We'll just replace each of these with name first. That would be the beginner way to do it. And say evaluate, and there's our last name. Or that would be, yeah, that'd be our last name. So let's just go ahead and look at make sure that this last name is going to work in all these instances. So we can look at our data viewer over here. We got the last name highlighted, and I'm just going to scroll through those and just make sure there's nothing that's going to mess that up. And so for the ones that I'm looking at, they all look good. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that function that I have working here. Copy it. And select the last name. Now, I could do Command equals will bring up the replace field contents, or I can just bring it up go to Records, replace field contents, and I'm going to specify a calculation. I'll paste that calculation in here straight from the help. Say OK, and say replace. Now when I go through here, I have all of those last names parsed out. So let's go back to our Claris help. Where did that go? Over here. And take their other example, which pulled out the first name. And I'll do the same thing I did here. I'll bring up my data viewer and just check to make sure that, it says table's not found. That's because I need to select my first name and say evaluate. Okay, that looks good. I'll say monitor so I can scroll through a few of these, and it looks like it's matching up pretty well. So I'll select that. Copy, select monitor so that stays in my data viewer. And now this time I'm going to do the shortcut Command equals. And usually I'm not brave enough to do this in the field with the data that I'm replacing. I'll have a secondary field that's either temporary, or I'll put it in some field that I'm not using right now. But this time I'm pretty sure I know what I'm doing. So I'm going to say OK and replace. So now we've got our first name, last name all parsed out. This is looking great. And so we've got all of our data here in contacts, and we've got our first name, last names parsed out, so we can see who those are. But one thing we don't have, we have a bunch of people that are associated, but we don't see any connections in the contacts area. So look at this. We've got Nido Glacier Incorporated, and they've got 1, 2, 3 people associated with them. But no one's showing up here. So we need a way to set up the accounts in this app to really get the full benefit of FM Starting Point. But before we do that, do we have any questions or comments about the?
No, I'm talking to these guys about.
Okay.
Kyle is busily telling us how great Jeremy Brown was today, and I'm like, well, that's great, except that that's not the trajectory we're on today, so that's fine. Yeah, I was just commenting that I can't tell you how many services or products I've created over the years for this community, for the FileMaker community, that failed, right? Lost money, right? And it's real easy to lose money doing something you believe in, but no one else gives a shit about, right? So that's why I do work with Monkey Bread and a handful of people who make great products. I want to make sure they don't fail. Right, if that makes any sense. DeCinco, that's Don from Colorado. I finally learned that. Wish I had the marks trick today. I was importing a vertical pipe delimited file into a table with 100 fields and had to go down and tell how to import each field. Okay, Calvin, I'm going to copy paste this out of Twitch. I don't get the marks trick.
Yeah,
The
so
trick that you just talked about, was
the
that a marks thing? I missed that.
it's not something that I talked about. So here, I'm going to go back to that script and open this up and see we have our import, and I'm specifically pointing to a. Let me try to clear my desktop. This is a CSV, and CSV stands for comma separated values. So you'll notice because it sees that I selected that, by default, it's saying that the field delimiter for source file is comma. Or you can say tab, semicolon, space. But here we have this option to say other. And you could put in his case, I think he said that it was a pipe. So if you had a file that had all this data that was separated by pipes, you could import that into FileMaker by specifying an other type. So it's one of those things that it's a small option, so it doesn't really stand out, and we sometimes forget we have those options. But it's good to know what our options are.
Yeah, if you go back to the import dialog from 17 to 18, they put the search dialog up here. That was a big deal. So you lost the ability to drag and drop, which is always hard for me to deal with, right? But then they have the click in here for me, and then you have so you get the search, which makes things much faster. You got the commas delimited, or the other delimited, which was great. Then you got the other one, which was new, is just click on this for me right here. You have the ability to decide which of the fields are going to get this auto enter. So auto enter was either all the fields or none of the fields. So there was all or none. And now it's like specifically selective. So there were several upgrades with this thing that Claris did. And it was such a funny thing because Claris didn't want to do it. They didn't want to do it, 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 didn't want to do it. Did I say didn't want to do it, didn't want to do it, didn't want to do it? Finally, somehow there's this epiphany within the product management engineering department that, hey, we should do this. And literally it was the same dialogue for like 29 or 30 years. And it's still that way for the export dialogue, right?
So the next thing that we're going to do is create the accounts so that we can see the relationships between contacts in this data. And to do that, we're going to have to create an account record for each of these names.
All right. You want to do the background on this, or you want me to do the background on this? Because you're talking about another kind of strategery kind of decision that people need to make when they're using starting point, right? Accounts. So let's talk about this. I'm just going to do this real quick. So it's another one of those Richard has to shut the hell up, but I'm not going to do it. So here's the deal. When you're setting up a CRM or you're building a solution for a customer, a lot of you build solutions. I mean, some of you are in-house people. So I'm thinking of Ken. I'm thinking of Scott to a degree, makes a vertical market solution. For you, it's less of an issue. But if you are an outside consultant and you get dropped by parachute, airdropped, repel, into a customer location, they say, we need a CRM. You have to decide, do they need an accounts module in the system, right? You need a context module because most businesses always deal with human beings, right? But you have to find out if they need an accounts module. At RCC, we don't use that. We have 30 some odd people. We do X number total with 30 people, less than $5 million a year, right? Kind of money. But we don't use accounts because most time we're dealing with individual people, right? Or a team of 2 or 3 people. If we were selling to Walmart or Amazon or some company like that, then you'd want to say the account is an organization up here. And then these 10 or 15 or 20 people work at that location. That's for like the one case we have where that's true, we deal with Apple, and there's probably 50 or 60 or 80 people or 100 people we deal with at Apple. Actually, it's more like 1,000 people we deal with at Apple. So then it's kind of like, well, it's Apple. But the account is the organization, then you can see the people that apply to that. But this can be an unnecessary thing in the database that you don't have to manage. If you're not going to really communicate at the account level, Like I never do. We always communicate directly to a person, and there's a reason we're going to that person. We don't just carpet bomb the account, right? Who is your official one Apple person, right? Does that even exist? No. But in our business model, it doesn't make sense. So we don't use accounts. So when we build a CRM for ourselves, we take this module, we remove it off screen, we get rid of it. We might leave the table in the system, but we don't use it. So we don't do what you're about to do. So we're going to do this account split where we're going to create a company. So you have one record in the organization, then you have X number of people that work at that company, right? But if you only have one person and one person works at one company, then why have two records and two separate systems for that? There's not really a compelling business organizational reason you really need that. Okay. So Calvin, you may resume. Sorry, I'm just framing that up.
So we could import straight into accounts from the same file, but we don't want 599 accounts. We only want one account for each of those names. So what I'm going to do here is manually massage that data and create these account records. And I'll do that from the contacts. And so I'm going to create a new script called process data. And it's going to be a loop. And I'm going to loop through all the records. So I'll say go to record next with an exit after last turned on. Okay. So what are we going to do in this loop? And what we want to do is we want to check to see if an account exists. If it does exist, if it does not exist, we want to create that account. If it does not exist, we want to take the ID from that account and associate it with this contact. So the way that I'm going to do that is looking at we're going to add a relationship in the contacts table group. And I'm just going to duplicate this account one. And we'll put this under U because the X goes at the bottom. We'll say U, and then we'll put a V on this one. And we're going to relate this by account name. Say OK. And so let's find our account name here, relate it to the account. I'll close that up, and I'm going to turn on allow creation of records in this relationship. Say OK. OK. So we have that new relationship set up, and let's go back to our script, and I'm going to set a variable, and we're going to call this one ID account. And we're going to look through that relationship that's based on that name and pull up the ID, and that was T05V, and I want ID count. Okay. So we'll select the ID account, and if that's empty, then we will create that record. So we can say set field, and we will set the field through that relationship, that account field, with the value from the account name. Say OK. And and that will create the record, and we can then set the variable again. And once we set that variable, we want to set the account field in the contacts to that value, so that relationship is then established. So we'll scroll up to T05 and go to ID account, and we want to set this with the variable ID account. Save that. Okay. So you'd want to when you're doing this, you'd want to comment it out and explain what's going on. We're going to leave it this way. Now, just to make sure that we're doing this right, we don't want to run this in some random place. So I'm going to say go to layout, tell it to go to the contact layout, and we'll say go to record first. There we go. So let's go ahead and try it out, and I'm going to do this with the debugger. so that we can see everything happen. And I'm stepping through this, so went to that first record, and I'm going to open up my data viewer and go to the current tab to see what's going on here, and just make sure that everything happens the way we expect it to happen. And we're going to move this so we can see if there's any error down at the bottom. Okay, so there's no ID, so that's empty. We're going to set that field. So now we have the account ID was created. Now we have this ID account, and it sets the field. And now we'll notice right away we have some problem here. So you'll notice that it cleared these out. So something's wrong in our script. I'm going to cancel this and select revert record to get our company name back, ABC Company. And let's go back to our script and see what might be the problem. So one thing we need to do is after we set this field, we want to clear that variable so that what we want to do is commit. So once we set these fields, we want to commit the record before we set the ID so that we have something to look up. Let's try that once again. I'll select debugger, opens up the debugger, and again I'm going to keep my data viewer up so we can see this. And usually I'll make sure that it works for one or two for a few of the records. Now you'll notice this time when we set it, our relationship didn't change, or we kept the ABC name, company name in there. So all we need was a commit. Let's go to the next record and see if that works. Okay, looks like that worked. Now what's going to be interesting about this next, we went to the next record, and this is the first time that we've got Nido Glacier Incorporated, and the second one is also Nido Glacier Incorporated, so we're hoping that it won't create a new one, a new record. So it saved the variable, that looks good. It skipped creating the account, and instead it just set the account ID. So I think that looks good. At this point, we've gone through a scenario of there not being an account and the scenario of there being an account already existing. So I think we can go ahead and close this, and I'm just going to press play and let this finish. We'll see how fast this takes, and there it's done. We got to the last record. So let's see how many accounts we have. Hopefully it worked. So here's a list of accounts. We've got 202 accounts, and we'll notice that we've got these related contacts associated with them. And if we open up one of these contacts, let's go back up to Nido. We're getting the relationships established over here so you can see who those people are in the same account. So that's how, there's probably some other ways you could script it to get it to work and create those accounts, but that's the way I would do it, and I think it's probably the simplest and fastest way of doing it. Do we have any questions about that or any other items?
No, the script is good. The script is good. I was watching this for those of you. Are we going to set this file aside if people want this file? We need to get the file for this.
Yeah, we can do that.
This is kind of an essential basic skill set if you're a FileMaker developer. If you're just kind of a power user and you're kind of barely loading stuff, you may never learn. But that script is pretty straightforward. It's like the script that we did the other day when we created related records. We would capture the ID, then we'd pop a new window, then go to the place and create it, forcibly create it. Here he's here he's doing all that different. I could see scripting this about 12 different ways. So there's 100 ways of doing this. You just have to pick the way that you're most comfortable with. That would probably be that'd be most accurate, or the way that makes the most sense for you, right? Because based upon your skill set. Yeah, so the reason we do basic training as well as advanced training, because we want this to be more of a horizontal training solution, or training live stream chat, for those of you wondering about this. It's not really specific to any one demographic, like just advanced people who only do JavaScript, for example. That's too small of an audience to be commercially viable with this platform. So yeah, so that's why in the book we talk about if you're going to make a vertical market product, you don't want to make a vertical market product for the FileMaker community. You want to make a vertical like Scott's doing, I think, a roofing solution that's really badass, right? And so as a result of that, then he's going to go out the roofing and have that vertical market and then go into that area and sell into that market. I think it's a great. There's a lot of people who make good money doing that. NJ, comment, once this is done and the import is good, it would be worth pointing out that you can search text backwards in position. We talked about that the other day when we were doing the certification training thing. I can't remember where that was at, but I found out. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, we used that technique today to get the last name.
Right. Well, I didn't even know it was a thing until about a week ago when we brought it up, that the position to have it go backwards, right? I was like, ooh. I think this is highly valuable. It's an essential skill set. How you get to the end is a little bit variable. The import dialog is not really negotiable too much. But once you get in there, how you populate other places, there's a number of tricks for that. I will cut you folks loose. Any questions, shoot an email to support@RC Consulting. Calvin did a great job. Calvin, thank you. Your next broadcast, Calvin, is next week. You're going to be covering beginning. One of you had a question about this. It was beginning window control. This is back when Calvin had a beard and stuff over here. You can see that. Window control for beginners. Controlling the precise placement of new windows can be important if you care. It's kind of like tab orders. It could be important if you care that people tab and they go where they're supposed to go, right? Or maybe no one cares and you just tab and you cross your fingers and hope that it goes to the right place, right? Have a good one, Calvin. See you. Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!